A sealed mountain in China hides a palace of poison and peril. This is the legendary tomb of the first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, a 2,000-year-old mystery guarded by rivers of toxic mercury and a labyrinth of mechanical traps. By the end of this exploration, you will understand the ancient engineering and profound beliefs that built this forbidden necropolis, and why its deepest secrets may never be revealed. What drove an emperor to encase his legacy in liquid metal, and could those deadly defenses still be active today? What does our caution about opening it say about our relationship with the past? How do you measure the true cost of a quest for eternal life? His fear of the end was as vast as the empire he forged. Qin Shi Huang, the man who first united the warring states of China into a single realm, spent his final years consumed by a single, all-encompassing pursuit, the conquest of death itself. This was not a quiet, philosophical dread, but a driving force that reshaped the landscape and mobilized countless individuals. Historical accounts, most notably the meticulous records of the Grand Historian by Sima Qian, paint a vivid picture of an emperor dispatching expeditions to mythical islands in search of elixirs of life and consulting with mystics and alchemists who promised the secrets of immortality. When these earthly quests proved futile, his focus turned monumentally to the hereafter. He conceived of death not as an end, but as a continuation of his rule in another realm. His tomb, therefore, could not be a simple resting place. It had to be a perfected, eternal version of his empire, a microcosm of the universe under his perpetual command. Think of the mindset required to authorize such a project. It goes beyond simple vanity or even the common ancient practice of provisioning for the afterlife. This was the act of a ruler who believed his singular authority must transcend the boundary between life and what comes next. He was building a capital city for his everlasting spirit, complete with palaces, officials, and an entire terracotta army to enforce his will for all time. This foundational obsession, this blend of profound spiritual conviction and unparalleled imperial power, is the essential key that unlocks the logic behind the tomb's most terrifying and ingenious features. Without understanding this drive for eternal sovereignty, the rivers of Mercury and the hidden traps seem like mere superstition or cruelty, but through the lens of Qin Shi Huang's vision, they become something else entirely, the necessary defenses and sacred geography of an immortal kingdom. The legend of this underground empire comes to us through the words of one man, Sima Qian. Decades after the first emperor's passing, this grand historian undertook the monumental task of recording China's past, compiling stories, official documents, and oral traditions into his masterwork, the Shiji. Within its pages lies the most detailed and tantalizing description of the tomb's interior we possess. He writes of a ceiling inlaid with pearls to mimic the constellations, and of the geography of the land below modeled in miniature. But two details stand out with chilling clarity: vast quantities of mercury-forming rivers and seas that flow mechanically, and crossbows set to trigger automatically against any who would dare to enter. These are not just poetic flourishes, they are specific technical claims that have echoed for centuries. The immediate question for any modern reader is one of source. How did Sima Qian know this? Was he working from now lost imperial blueprints, or perhaps interviewing aged laborers who had worked on the sealed project? Or were these descriptions born from court rumor and the growing mythology around a fearsome ruler? Scholars carefully parse his language, noting that he writes with a tone of certainty about features no living person could have seen after the tomb was closed. This leads to a fascinating split in interpretation. Some researchers argue the Mercury rivers were purely symbolic, a representation of the great waterways of China meant to empower the emperor's spirit in the afterlife. Others take the account more literally, seeing it as a record of an actual, terrifyingly innovative security and preservation system. This ancient text, therefore, does not give us a simple blueprint. It presents us with a riddle wrapped in a historical account. It forces us to ask where fact ends and symbolic meaning begins, a line that becomes dangerously blurred when standing before a sealed mound that science suggests may hold a kernel of terrifying truth. The true scale of this project only became clear to the modern world by pure accident. In the spring of 1974, farmers digging a well outside the city of Xi'an struck not water but pottery, a fragmented clay head that would become one of the most significant archaeological discoveries of the 20th century. They had found the vanguard of the Terracotta army, a legion of thousands of life-sized soldiers, horses, and chariots, each with unique facial features and arranged in precise military formation. And here is the staggering part: this awe-inspiring army, a wonder in its own right, was not the main event. It was merely the outer garrison, stationed in pits over a kilometer away from the central tomb mound. This realization redefined everything. The tomb was not a solitary structure. It was the beating heart of an entire necropolis, a sprawling, meticulously planned city for the dead. Beyond the warriors, archaeologists uncovered pits containing terracotta officials, musicians, acrobats, and even a breathtaking set of bronze chariots drawn by teams of 4 horses. Each group had a role to play, a function in the emperor's eternal court. This complex was a mirror of his imperial administration, a complete society frozen in time to serve one man's spirit. The central tumulus, the man-made mountain that covers the tomb itself, rises from the center of this arrangement like a forbidden palace. While the surrounding pits have been carefully excavated, the main mound remains profoundly sealed, a silent promise and a warning. Understanding this full layout is crucial because it transforms the Mercury Rivers from a possible myth into a probable component of a grand design. If the emperor needed officials to govern and acrobats to entertain in the afterlife, he would certainly need to protect his most sacred inner chamber with the most advanced means possible. The traps and the toxic rivers were not isolated tricks. They were the final, integrated security system for the capital of his forever kingdom. Mercury shimmered in the alchemist's crucible, a liquid metal that seemed to hold the very essence of transformation. To the artisans and thinkers of the first emperor's time, this quicksilver was far more than a curious substance. It was a bridge between worlds. In the pursuit of eternal life, mercury was a prized ingredient, believed to purify the body and grant longevity. Emperors, including Qin Shi Huang himself, are historically noted to have consumed elixirs containing it, a tragic irony given its poisonous nature. So when we read of rivers of mercury flowing through his tomb, we must first see them through this ancient lens as a spiritual provision. They could represent the lifeblood of his eternal empire, a magical substance meant to sustain his journey and power his spirit in the afterlife. Picture a miniature, flowing map of China's great waterways, the Yellow River and the Yangtze, crafted in liquid silver, allowing the emperor to symbolically rule the very geography of his realm forever. This symbolic interpretation is powerful and deeply logical within his worldview. Yet, science has introduced a startling complication, one that blurs the line between ancient allegory and physical fact. Modern researchers conducting soil tests around the tomb mound have made a sobering discovery. The mercury levels in the earth are significantly higher than the surrounding area, in some places dramatically so. This data does not prove the existence of vast underground pools, but it strongly suggests that a large quantity of mercury was indeed present at the site, and that over centuries some of it has seeped into the soil. Suddenly, Sima Qian's 2,000-year-old account moves from the realm of pure myth into the territory of plausible, terrifying reality. This forces a profound question: were these Mercury features solely a beautiful, symbolic map, or were they also something more pragmatic and chilling? The duality is the true enigma. Mercury was both the alchemical key to immortality and one of the deadliest poisons known to humanity. A flowing river of it would create toxic vapors, filling the sealed chambers with an invisible, lethal atmosphere. This would act as a perpetual barrier, far more effective than any wall. It presents us with a haunting possibility that the Emperor's artisans may have masterfully combined profound spiritual symbolism with brutally effective physical security. The map of his kingdom was also its moat, a beautiful and deadly paradox flowing at the heart of the mountain. The silent darkness of the tomb's entrance corridor would have held more than just shadows. According to the ancient record, it was armed with crossbows set to trigger automatically, a claim that conjures a scene of lethal ingenuity. Let's reconstruct how such a system might have worked based on the known engineering of the era. The artisans of the Qin dynasty were masters of precise mechanism, as seen in the intricate bronze chariots found near the tomb, with their working axles, detailed reins, and movable parts. Their crossbow triggers, made of interlocking bronze pieces, were marvels of efficiency, allowing a soldier to hold a powerful draw and release it with a light, precise touch. Scaling this concept into an automated trap would require a triggering device. One plausible method involves a network of nearly invisible tripwires stretched across the passage, connected to the release mechanisms of preloaded crossbows mounted in the walls or ceiling. Another possibility is a series of pressure plates hidden beneath the floor tiles, designed to sink under the weight of an intruder and activate the weapons through a system of ropes, pulleys, or even primitive but effective counterweights. The terrifying brilliance of such a design is its permanence and patience. Unlike a human guard, this system would never sleep, never tire, and remain ready for centuries. While no physical evidence of these specific traps has been discovered, their detailed description in the historical text suggests the idea was not mere fantasy, but a reflection of contemporary capability and intent. This speaks to a chillingly sophisticated understanding of defensive automation, transforming the very architecture of the tomb into an active guardian. The purpose was absolute: to protect the sanctity of the inner chamber through a demonstration of irreversible consequence, a concept that would echo through millennia of tomb raiding folklore and solidify the first emperor's resting place as the pinnacle of forbidden security. But the crossbows were likely only the first line of a much deeper, more insidious defense. The tomb's architecture itself could have been weaponized. Across many ancient cultures, from the pyramids of Egypt to hidden tombs in the Americas, builders employed a grim form of passive security, structural traps designed to function for eternity without maintenance. These are not complex machines, but cunning uses of weight, gravity, and deception. One of the most feared is the Deadfall, a massive stone slab carefully balanced above a doorway or corridor, held in place by a wooden support that rots away over time or is designed to collapse under a specific trigger. The result is sudden, irrevocable, and silent until the moment it strikes. Another common design is the concealed pit, a deep shaft dug into a passageway and then covered with a thin layer of plaster and dirt to match the surrounding floor. An intruder focused on the walls for hidden mechanisms would take one fatal step into empty space. These traps are psychologically brutal. They turn the ground beneath your feet and the ceiling above your head into latent threats. Applying this logic to the first emperor's tomb is chillingly straightforward. The central chamber was built deep within a man-made mountain of layered earth and stone, a structure capable of supporting immense weight and complex internal engineering. It is entirely plausible that access corridors were constructed with false floors or ceilings engineered to collapse. or that certain vaults were designed as sealed rooms that would flood with loose earth or sand if a door were forced open. The true horror of these systems lies in their simplicity and permanence. A crossbow mechanism could, in theory, fail after centuries, its strings decaying. But a stone slab once dropped is a permanent seal. A deep pit remains a pit. These are not just traps, they are architectural statements, a permanent alteration of the space meant to ensure that any violation becomes its own tomb. This leads to one of the tomb's most haunting and tragic layers of secrecy. Historical accounts suggest that to protect these very designs, the workers who built the innermost passages and chambers were never meant to leave. Many individuals involved in the final, most sensitive stages of construction were reportedly not allowed to depart with their knowledge intact. While we must handle such accounts with care and respect for those involved, this tradition of enforced silence was a grimly logical security measure for the time. If no one who knew the precise location of the deadfall trigger or the layout of the false floor survived to speak of it, then the tomb's defenses became truly perfect, guarded by the silence of the departed. The traps, therefore, exist in two forms: the physical mechanisms within the earth and the erased memory of their blueprints. Together, they create a labyrinth where the walls themselves remember their one deadly purpose. Yet the most enduring barrier may have been woven not from bronze or stone, but from stories. Alongside the physical traps, a powerful psychological deterrent grew from the very legend of the tomb's creation. Historical accounts speak of a grim final measure, the fate of the many artisans and laborers who possessed intimate knowledge of the tomb's innermost secrets. To ensure that map of Mercury and the locations of the Deadfalls never left the mountain, tradition holds they were not permitted to leave. While we must approach such ancient reports with care, focusing on the cultural meaning they convey, this narrative established a profound and chilling precedent. It seeded the idea that the tomb was not just protected by devices, but by a kind of sacred silence, a permanent seal of secrecy maintained by those who built it. This story, passed down and amplified over generations, transformed the mound from a mere archaeological site into a place imbued with consequence. It suggested that violating this space was not simply risky, it was a transgression against a covenant sealed long ago. Sima Qian's writings, with their vivid descriptions of automatic crossbows and flowing mercury, further fed this aura of forbidden danger. His words became the foundational text for a folklore of dread, warning that the emperor's eternal rest was guarded by more than just engineering. This cultivated a deep-seated cultural reluctance, a potent blend of fear and respect that acted as an intangible shield for centuries. Why would a farmer dig too deep or a local leader authorize an excavation if the very act was believed to invite misfortune or awaken a terrible ancient wrath? This psychological barrier is a fascinating force in history. It demonstrates how belief and narrative can become powerful preservation tools, often more effective than any wall because they live in the minds of a community. This legacy continues to shape modern archaeology in the form of ethical considerations. Today, researchers balance the drive for discovery with a profound respect for sites of cultural significance, often prioritizing non-invasive techniques like ground-penetrating radar over immediate excavation. This careful approach is not merely technical, it is a recognition of that same powerful force, the understanding that some secrets are guarded by time, by story, and by a collective sense that the past commands a certain reverence. The tomb's greatest trap, therefore, might be the one we impose upon ourselves, the weight of history and myth that gives us pause at the threshold. The ancient stories meet their match in the silent, probing gaze of modern science. For decades, the tomb mound stood as an impenetrable mystery, its secrets locked away by earth and time. But today, archaeologists possess tools that allow them to see through the soil without ever lifting a shovel. a technological leap that has transformed our understanding of what lies beneath. Teams of researchers have conducted extensive geophysical surveys around the tumulus, using methods like ground-penetrating radar, which sends pulses of energy into the earth and reads the echoes that bounce back, painting a picture of buried walls and chambers. Another technique, electrical resistivity tomography, measures how easily electrical currents pass through the ground, revealing differences between solid earth, buried artifacts, and empty spaces. These are not guesses, they are detailed, non-invasive scans that compile a digital blueprint of the subterranean world. The results have been nothing short of staggering. The surveys confirm the existence of a vast, ramified underground palace complex, with a central chamber nearly the size of a football field, surrounded by a network of corridors and smaller rooms. The structure's layout aligns remarkably well with the descriptions of an imperial court for the afterlife, but the most chilling corroboration comes from the soil itself. As mentioned earlier, tests have revealed areas with extraordinarily high concentrations of mercury, creating a distinct toxic signature that maps out across the site in a pattern some researchers interpret as mimicking the great rivers of ancient China. This scientific data provides the most compelling modern evidence that Sima Qian's 2,000-year-old account was rooted in a tangible, terrifying reality. The surveys have also detected what appear to be large, void-like spaces and dense, metallic anomalies, hints at the treasures and perhaps the mechanisms that may still wait in the dark. This creates an unprecedented dilemma. For the first time in history, we possess a ghostly image of the tomb's interior, a promise of unparalleled archaeological insight. Yet, that very knowledge reinforces the dangers, both chemical and structural, that sealing the tomb was meant to enforce. The technology that allows us to peer inside also reminds us why we cannot yet enter, framing a profound ethical question that balances the hunger for discovery against the duty to preserve a legacy sealed by time, belief, and deliberate design. This ghostly map beneath the soil presents a profound modern dilemma. We stand at a technological crossroads, possessing the tools to potentially unlock the tomb's inner chambers, yet we are held back by a weight of responsibility. The arguments for a full-scale excavation are powerful and deeply alluring. Imagine the historical revelations waiting in that central chamber, a perfectly preserved snapshot of the Qin dynasty's zenith. We could encounter texts on bamboo slips that rewrite our understanding of early Chinese philosophy or law, or breathtaking artworks in lacquer and silk that have been lost to time elsewhere. The scientific value would be monumental, offering an unparalleled opportunity to study ancient materials, construction techniques, and imperial ideology in their original, undisturbed context. Proponents argue that with today's non-invasive scanning, controlled environments, and advanced conservation methods, we could mitigate many risks, carefully extracting and preserving artifacts that have survived for 2 millennia. The knowledge gained could fill vast gaps in the historical record, a gift to global understanding. Yet, the case for preservation is equally compelling, rooted in both practical danger and philosophical respect. The first and most immediate hazard is the mercury. While scans suggest its presence, no one knows its exact volume, distribution, or state. Opening the tomb could release concentrated vapors, posing a severe health risk and potentially corroding delicate artifacts the moment they are exposed to air. Then there is the fragility of the treasures themselves. Organic materials like silk banners, wooden sculptures, or lacquer have survived only because of a perfectly stable, sealed environment. The sudden change in humidity, temperature, and light could cause them to disintegrate within minutes, a loss far more final than mere theft. Beyond these physical risks lies an ethical consideration. This site is fundamentally a resting place. Many cultures and contemporary archaeologists advocate for a principle of minimal disturbance, arguing that the drive for knowledge must be balanced with a respect for the sanctity of such sites. To excavate is an irreversible act. We cannot unopen what has been sealed. The tomb has maintained its own equilibrium for over 2,000 years, and intervening could destroy the very things we seek to save. This isn't merely a technical challenge, it is a test of our relationship with history itself. Do we see the past as a resource to be mined for data, or as a legacy to be approached with reverence and caution? The sealed mountain forces us to define where curiosity ends and custodianship begins. Mercury was far more than a metal to the minds of the first emperor's era. It occupied a central, almost mystical place in the ancient Chinese understanding of the cosmos and the human body. Taoist alchemists, the pioneering scientists and spiritual seekers of their time, saw the natural world as a reflection of universal principles. In their quest to harmonize with these principles and achieve longevity, they focused intensely on substances that seemed to defy simple categories. Mercury, or quicksilver, was the ultimate paradox, a shimmering liquid that behaved like a metal, capable of dissolving gold and appearing to transform itself. This unique nature made it a cornerstone of their practice. They believed it contained the very essence of vitality and change, a substance that could purify the physical form and prepare the spirit for its journey beyond the constraints of ordinary life. The goal was not merely to live longer, but to undergo a profound metamorphosis, to refine the mortal body into an immortal vessel. This was the potent promise that reached the ears of the most powerful man in the land. Qin Shi Huang was a documented patron of these alchemists, funding their experiments and eagerly consuming the results. Historical accounts note he regularly ingested pills and elixirs formulated with mercury and other minerals, a tragic testament to his absolute commitment to conquering death. Modern understanding suggests this practice likely contributed to the physical decline that ended his life, a stark irony where the sought-after key to immortality became an agent of its opposite. This personal history reframes everything about the Mercury described within his tomb. It moves beyond the interpretations of a map or a trap, though it could still function as both. The flowing rivers take on a deeper, more sacred purpose. They become a direct extension of the emperor's most profound aspiration, a literal landscape of immortality integrated into the very architecture of his afterlife. Imagine those channels not as inert decoration, but as a functional, spiritual circulatory system for his eternal palace. The Mercury was meant to perpetually flow, carrying its transformative essence throughout the underground realm, continuously purifying and empowering the emperor's spirit in its everlasting rule. This perspective forces us to see the tomb not just as a fortified mausoleum, but as the ultimate alchemical instrument, a machine built on a mountain scale designed to complete the transformation that life could not. The poison that guarded his rest was also, in his belief, the very substance that would grant him eternity, a final, breathtaking fusion of profound faith and formidable science. The concept of a river marking the boundary to the next world is an ancient echo found across the globe. In Greek mythology, the souls of the departed had to cross the river Styx, a dark and forbidding waterway, paying the ferryman Charon for passage to the realm of Hades. In Hindu tradition, the Vaitarani River flows between the worlds of the living and the departed, described as a river of filth, blood, and sorrow that must be navigated by the virtuous. From the ancient Egyptians to the Norse, cultures have repeatedly envisioned the passage into the afterlife as a journey across a perilous body of water. This is not a coincidence but a profound archetype. Water represents both a barrier and a transition, a cleansing force and a final, irrevocable separation. It is the last great obstacle the spirit must face. Qin Shi Huang and his planners tapped directly into this deep-seated, almost universal symbolism. Their genius, however, was in its execution. They did not merely inscribe the idea on a wall or describe it in a prayer. They sought to build it, The Mercury Rivers were their answer to the Styx, their version of the Veterani. But instead of a mythical description, they used a tangible, rare, and astonishingly potent substance to manifest the concept in physical form. This transformed a shared human metaphor into a unique cultural statement. The river was no longer just a spiritual idea. It was a technological and artistic achievement, a flowing testament to the emperor's power that blended universal mythology with singular ambition. The crossing was not meant for a ferry, but for an emperor's spirit to command, turning a common archetype of separation into a symbol of his eternal sovereignty. The silent mechanisms guarding the tomb required not just an idea, but a hand to build them. This leads us to a profound and difficult question of logistics, one that intertwines human ingenuity with a sobering historical reality. How do you construct a perfect, permanent security system in total secrecy? The accounts passed down through history suggest a chillingly effective, if grim, solution. After the innermost chambers were complete and the final mechanisms set, the individuals who possessed the most sensitive knowledge of the passages and traps were reportedly not permitted to leave. While we must approach such ancient narratives with care, focusing on the cultural meaning they convey rather than graphic detail, this tradition underscores the absolute priority placed on secrecy. It presents a stark equation for the time. The permanent protection of the emperor's eternal sanctuary was deemed to outweigh all other considerations. From an engineering standpoint, however, this final act was just the last step in a long, meticulously planned process. The traps themselves had to be designed for centuries of patient readiness. Think of the materials available: bronze for triggers and pivots, stone for counterweights and deadfalls, ceramic tiles for pressure plates. These are substances chosen for their resistance to decay, their ability to wait in the dark without rusting into uselessness. The crossbow mechanisms, likely using animal sinew for tension, might have been the most perishable element, but even they could remain functional for generations in a sealed, stable environment. The true brilliance lay in the design's simplicity and redundancy. A tripwire might rot, but a stone slab balanced on a decaying timber will eventually fall, sealing a corridor forever. A bronze trigger could be set and left, requiring no maintenance, only a footstep to awaken it. This combination of durable materials and passive, gravity-based systems points to a frighteningly long-term vision. The engineers were not building for a decade or even a century. They were building for eternity, creating a defense that would outlast dynasties and languages. This reveals a haunting duality in the tomb's creation, a blend of ruthless pragmatism and transcendent craftsmanship. The same minds that could calculate the precise angle for a deadfall or engineer a hydraulic system to circulate mercury were operating under a mandate that allowed for no witnesses. The worker's secret, therefore, was the ultimate price of perfection, a knowledge so dangerous it was meant to be entombed with the very mechanisms it created, leaving behind only the silent, waiting mountain and the legends of what it might contain. The sealed mountain guards a chemical legacy as enduring as its stone. For 2 millennia, the mercury placed within the tomb has not been entirely inert. Minute quantities have slowly migrated, seeping into the surrounding soil and creating the distinct geochemical signature that first caught the attention of modern scientists. This presents a quiet, long-term environmental narrative that runs parallel to the grand historical one. The local soil samples show elevated mercury levels, a clear anomaly when compared to the broader region. While experts confirm there is no immediate, widespread public health crisis for the surrounding communities, the data tells a story of gradual dispersal, a testament to the substance's persistent nature. It acts as a permanent marker, a ghostly echo of the tomb's contents that has subtly altered the very earth that encases it. The question then shifts from what has happened to what could happen if that seal were ever broken. A full-scale excavation would not be like opening a simple burial chamber. It would be more akin to carefully unsealing a centuries-old chemical container. The greatest unknown risk is not liquid mercury, but its vapor. In a confined space that has been closed for over 2,000 years, volatile mercury compounds could have accumulated in the air of the central chamber. Disturbing the structure could release a concentrated plume of these invisible, toxic vapors, posing a severe inhalation hazard to any team working inside and potentially affecting the immediate local atmosphere. Furthermore, exposing large quantities of the metal to air and moisture after so long could accelerate new forms of chemical change and leaching into the groundwater system. This modern scientific perspective adds a profound, practical layer to the ancient legends. The automatic crossbows and stone deadfalls were threats to the individual intruder, but the mercury represents a broader, more diffuse environmental peril. It transforms the tomb from a fortified historical site into a uniquely challenging archaeological and ecological puzzle. The decision to excavate, therefore, is not merely a question of overcoming mechanical traps, but of managing a latent chemical hazard on a scale never before encountered. It forces a collaboration not just between historians and engineers, but with environmental scientists and toxicologists, all working to answer one daunting question: how do you safely unlock a poisoned palace without its legacy escaping into the present? The silent, unopened mound is far more than an archaeological site. It is a cornerstone of modern identity. For China today, the first emperor's tomb and its terracotta army stand as monumental proof of an ancient civilization's profound sophistication and enduring unity. The warriors themselves, with their individualized faces and precise military formations, are not merely clay figures. They are emissaries from the dawn of a unified nation, a physical manifestation of the moment disparate warring states were forged into a single, powerful entity. This connection is felt deeply, transforming the necropolis from a historical curiosity into a living pillar of cultural heritage and immense national pride. The decision to leave the central tomb sealed is powerfully shaped by this profound reverence. It is viewed not as a delay, but as an act of stewardship, a sacred trust passed down from the ancestors. To recklessly disturb this space would be seen by many as a violation of that trust, a disrespect to the very foundations of the culture. The tomb mound, therefore, exists in a unique state, both a known treasure and a protected mystery. It serves as a direct bridge, a tangible link that allows a modern, rapidly evolving society to physically touch its own ancient origins. This transforms the question of excavation from a purely technical or scientific debate into one deeply intertwined with cultural identity. How a nation cares for its most significant past speaks volumes about its values in the present. The patience exhibited, the preference for non-invasive study, and the emphasis on preservation all reflect a worldview that sees history as a continuum, not a resource to be consumed. It acknowledges that some knowledge carries a weight of responsibility that transcends immediate curiosity. The tomb is a promise to future generations, a guarantee that they, too, will inherit the awe and the mystery, the chance to stand before the same sealed mountain and feel that same powerful connection to a civilization that dreamed in rivers of silver and armies of clay. This philosophical ambition reaches its zenith in one breathtaking interpretation. The tomb was not merely a palace for the dead, it was a perfect model of existence itself, a microcosm of the entire cosmos. When Sima Qian described a ceiling inlaid with pearls to represent the stars and constellations, and a landscape below with its rivers of mercury, he was likely recording more than decorative art. He was hinting at a complete cosmological map, an ancient vision of the universe given physical form. This idea is rooted in a foundational concept of early Chinese thought, the harmony between heaven and earth. The cosmos was seen as an ordered, interconnected system, and the emperor's sacred role was to act as the pivot between these two realms, maintaining balance and order for all his people. His palace in life was designed to reflect this, often aligned with celestial patterns. It follows, then, that his eternal palace would seek to perfect this reflection, to become a permanent engine of cosmic harmony. In this view, the tomb's layout becomes a ritual instrument of staggering scale. The pearl-studded ceiling is the dome of heaven, a chart of the night sky as it was known. The Mercury Rivers are not just waterways, but the great terrestrial veins of the empire, mirroring the celestial rivers of the Milky Way above. The central chamber, where the emperor himself rests, becomes the axis mundi, the still point around which this miniature universe turns. His presence there was meant to perpetually anchor the cosmic order, ensuring stability and prosperity for the realm he left behind from beyond the grave. This transforms every feature from a practical or symbolic choice into a component of a grand metaphysical machine. The Terracotta army garrisoned outside are not just guards, they are the celestial army, upholding the mandate of heaven. The traps and the Mercury are not just defenses, they are the necessary boundaries that protect the sanctity of this perfected world from chaos. This interpretation elevates the entire project from a feat of engineering and wealth into a profound philosophical statement. It was the ultimate act of imperial duty, an attempt to cement one man's responsibility to his empire for all eternity, by literally building a universe where he could forever fulfill his role. The mountain does not just hide a tomb, it contains a frozen, functioning model of reality as the first emperor understood it, a final, breathtaking attempt to command the stars and the rivers from the silent heart of the earth. The true treasure of the tomb may lie not in precious metal, but in lost knowledge. While the Mercury Rivers capture our imagination, the central chamber likely holds artifacts that could fundamentally reshape our understanding of the ancient world. We can make educated guesses by looking at what was already placed in the surrounding pits, the emperor's known ambitions, and the burial customs of his elite. The two exquisite bronze chariots found in a separate vault, complete with intricate horses and drivers, demonstrate an astonishing standard of craftsmanship reserved for the afterlife. It is reasonable to speculate that the main chamber contains items of even greater personal and imperial significance. One strong possibility is a suit of jade pieces sewn with gold thread. Jade was revered as a stone of purity and immortality, and historical records mention elite burials using jade suits to protect the body for eternity. For the first emperor, such a suit would be a masterpiece, a physical vessel for his enduring spirit. Alongside it, we might find exquisite gold work, perhaps ceremonial vessels, insignia of office, or ornaments depicting celestial dragons and phoenixes, symbols of his divine mandate to rule. Yet the most revolutionary finds could be entirely organic. The chamber might contain libraries of bamboo slips, bound texts that have not seen light in over 2,000 years. These fragile strips could hold lost philosophical works, legal codes, detailed maps of the empire, astronomical observations, or even the personal diaries of the emperor himself. Imagine uncovering a complete version of a text only known through fragments, or an entirely unknown history of the Qin dynasty's unification written by its architects. The potential to rewrite chapters of early Chinese history, philosophy, and science is almost limitless. There could also be musical instruments of lacquered wood and silk, or delicate silk paintings depicting scenes of court life and mythology, art forms that have largely perished in other contexts. This thrilling possibility, however, is shadowed by a sobering scientific reality. The very act of discovery could trigger their destruction. These organic materials have survived solely because of a perfectly sealed, stable environment. The moment that seal is broken, the delicate equilibrium of humidity and temperature that has preserved silk, lacquer, and bamboo for millennia would vanish. A silk banner could crumble to dust in minutes upon contact with modern air, a lacquer box might warp and crack before our eyes. This creates an agonizing paradox for archaeologists and historians. The greatest historical treasure imaginable could be lost forever in the process of trying to save it. It forces a discipline defined by excavation to practice profound restraint, to prioritize the preservation of potential knowledge over its immediate revelation. The chamber's contents are a whispered promise and a dire warning, a collection of wonders suspended in time, waiting for the day our technology can meet the challenge of their fragility without costing us their truth. The discovery in the Xi'an fields did more than unearth an army. It fundamentally reshaped the science of uncovering the past. Before 1974, Chinese archaeology often focused on textual research and the excavation of known historical sites. The accidental unearthing of the terracotta warriors by local farmers changed everything in an instant. It presented the world with an unprecedented scale of preservation, demanding new techniques for excavation, conservation, and reconstruction. This single event catapulted Chinese archaeology onto the global stage, fostering international collaborations and setting new standards for handling large-scale, fragile finds. The warriors taught a generation of researchers that the ground could hold entire worlds, waiting for a careful, respectful hand to reveal them. But perhaps the most profound lesson came from what was left untouched, the central tomb mound itself. The decision to study it with radar and soil samples rather than immediate excavation established a powerful new ethic in the field. It prioritized preservation over possession, understanding that the context and integrity of a site are treasures in themselves. This cautious approach transformed the Qin necropolis into a living classroom for multidisciplinary research. Historians analyze the ancient texts, chemists map the Mercury anomalies, geologists study the mound structure, and engineers model potential trap mechanisms. This collaboration shows that modern archaeology is no longer just about digging. It is a conversation between many sciences, all seeking to listen to the whispers of the past without drowning them out. The site teaches a counterintuitive but vital truth that sometimes the greatest act of discovery is restraint, the patience to wait, to learn from a distance, and to preserve the mystery for future generations with better tools and deeper wisdom, can be a more profound contribution than any single artifact brought into the light. It reminds us that our relationship with history is not one of conquest, but of stewardship, where knowing what not to disturb is the ultimate sign of respect. The legends surrounding the tomb have grown with each passing century, weaving a tapestry where fact and fantasy become nearly impossible to separate. We hear whispers of rivers not just of mercury but of fire, of self-repairing walls, and of perpetual motion machines that have kept the traps primed for millennia. These sensational stories speak to our enduring fascination, but they also present the core challenge of this entire mystery. How do we disentangle the probable from the purely fantastical in our search for truth? This requires a careful exercise in historical criticism, a willingness to hold ancient accounts up to the light of modern evidence without dismissing the genuine ingenuity they may contain. Take Sima Qian's foundational text. We now have strong scientific corroboration for his claim of mercury within the tomb complex, as soil chemistry has confirmed its pervasive signature. This validation is monumental, lifting his description from myth into the realm of plausible, documented fact. It suggests he had access to reliable sources, perhaps builders' records or official inventories, for at least some elements of his account. Yet other details remain firmly in the realm of informed speculation or symbolic storytelling. The precise mechanics of the automatic crossbows, for instance, are not described. We can reconstruct plausible mechanisms based on known Qin engineering, but we cannot confirm their exact design or even their ultimate placement without physical evidence. The idea of a perfectly flowing, mechanical Mercury River system is another point of debate. while the presence of the substance is confirmed, whether it was channeled through an elaborate, perpetually circulating apparatus or placed in stationary pools as a symbolic map is still unknown. This nuanced reading is essential. It reminds us that ancient historians like Sima Qian were not simply reporters. They were interpreters of their culture, weaving together official records, oral tradition, and philosophical meaning to create a coherent narrative. His account is a layered text, and our interpretation must be equally layered. We must balance a healthy skepticism toward the most outlandish folklore with an open-minded respect for the technological and artistic achievements that were demonstrably within the reach of the Qin dynasty. The tomb does not need rivers of fire to be awe-inspiring. The reality of its mercury-laden soil and its architecturally fortified mound is astonishing enough. By separating the likely from the legendary, we do not diminish the mystery, we refine it. We move closer to appreciating what the builders actually accomplished, setting aside the exaggerated folklore to stand in genuine wonder before the authentic and still formidable genius sealed within the mountain. Their silent faces hold the key to the mountain's secrets. The Terracotta army, standing guard in their vast pits over a kilometer from the tomb mound, are far more than a spectacular display. They are a direct, tangible blueprint for the mindset and capability that built the entire necropolis. Each warrior was crafted from a library of interchangeable clay parts, arms, legs, torsos, and heads, yet the final assembly was an act of astonishing artistry. The artisans applied individual slabs of wet clay to each head, sculpting by hand the subtle contours of cheekbones, the curve of a lip, the distinctive set of eyes that conveyed unique age, ethnicity, and even personality. After firing, they were painted in vibrant pigments, their armor and uniforms rendered in brilliant lacquers. This was not mass production. It was a systematic creation of individuality on an industrial scale, a profound statement that even in the afterlife, the emperor's authority would be enforced by a legion of distinct, conscious individuals. The technological mastery extends beyond artistry. The figures were fired in colossal, precisely controlled kilns, a logistical feat requiring immense quantities of wood, clay, and coordinated labor. Many warriors were found holding real, fully functional bronze weapons, swords, spears, and crossbow triggers, their blades still sharp after millennia due to an advanced chromium coating that resisted corrosion. This detail is critical. It proves that the tomb's builders were not just creating symbols, they were provisioning for a functional, armed eternity. The sheer organizational power this represents is staggering, a command of resources, supply chains, and specialized workshops that would be the envy of any ancient state. If this level of resources, artistry, and meticulous planning was devoted to the outer garrison, what does it imply about the sanctum at the heart of it all? The warriors are our most reliable proxy, a physical sample of the craftsmanship and intent that vanished behind the sealed tomb door. They make the extraordinary claims about the inner chamber not just believable but probable. The artisans who could paint individual eyelashes on 8,000 clay soldiers were certainly capable of inlaying a pearl-studded ceiling. The metallurgists who chromium-plated thousands of sword blades could absolutely engineer complex bronze trigger mechanisms for automatic traps. The logisticians who managed this 20-year project could surely design and install a flowing system of mercury, whether symbolic or functional. The army thus transforms from a separate wonder into the most compelling piece of evidence we have. They are a chorus of silent witnesses, testifying through their own exquisite existence to the even greater, unseen marvel that awaits in the dark, their very presence making the legend feel not like a fairy tale, but like a historical report waiting for its final confirmation. This silent mountain in China has echoed loudly across the world. The mystery of the first emperor's tomb has transcended its archaeological context to become a fixture of global popular culture, a story that feels both ancient and perpetually new. You can find its influence everywhere, from the high-stakes explorations of documentary series to the pulpy pages of adventure novels. It has served as the ultimate dungeon in video games, a labyrinth of poison and puzzles waiting for a digital hero to conquer. Major film franchises have drawn directly from its legend, weaving narratives of immortal emperors, Mercury Rivers, and silent terracotta legions awakened in modern times. This widespread fascination is not accidental. It taps into a universal set of story ingredients that have captivated humanity for centuries. Here is the perfect recipe, a hidden treasure of unimaginable value, protected by ingenious and deadly traps that suggest a technology far ahead of its time, all built by a historical figure of monumental ambition and power. The tomb is a ready-made plot, combining the thrill of the heist with the awe of historical discovery and the chill of supernatural consequence. It represents the ultimate locked room mystery, one where the room is a mountain and the lock has been set for over 2,000 years. This pop culture life does something remarkable. It keeps the legend breathing. Each documentary that scans the mound, each novel that imagines the chamber's contents, each game that lets a player navigate its traps is an act of collective wonder. It introduces the historical reality to audiences who might never pick up an academic journal, sparking a curiosity that often leads back to the genuine facts. The fictional versions, while taking creative liberties, almost always preserve the core elements: the Mercury, the traps, the army, the Emperor's quest for eternity. In doing so, they reinforce the tomb's status as the archetype of the unsolvable historical puzzle. This cultural footprint demonstrates a powerful truth: that the past is not a static set of dates and artifacts, but a living wellspring for narrative. The tomb's story is so potent because it lives in the fertile space between what we know and what we can only imagine. It allows us to project our own fears and fascinations, our own what-if scenarios onto that sealed mound. The global embrace of this mystery proves that some historical questions are so compelling, they cease to belong solely to historians and become instead a shared human story, a testament to our endless fascination with what might still be waiting, patient and silent, in the dark. The sealed chamber's greatest protection may be our own reverence for its fragility, but science is quietly building new keys. While we cannot yet open the tomb without risk, a suite of emerging technologies offers a tantalizing future, one where we might finally see inside without ever breaking the seal. This forward-looking field blends particle physics with robotics, dreaming of a day when exploration is virtual and preservation remains absolute. Imagine a device no larger than a thread, capable of navigating the narrowest air vent or a purpose-drilled microscopic hole. Advanced micro-robotics, equipped with fiber optic cameras and environmental sensors, could one day be deployed into the void. These mechanical explorers would map the chamber in extreme detail, sampling the air for chemical composition, measuring humidity and temperature, and beaming back real-time images of artifacts untouched for millennia. Their mission would be one of pure observation, leaving the physical space perfectly intact. This approach transforms the ethical dilemma, shifting the goal from extraction to understanding, from possession to profound, distant witness. Another revolutionary tool comes not from a lab but from the cosmos itself. Muon tomography is a technique that uses naturally occurring cosmic rays to peer through solid rock. As these high-energy particles rain down from space, they pass through matter, slowing and scattering depending on the density of what they encounter. By placing sensitive muon detectors around the base of the tomb mound, scientists could, over time, compile a three-dimensional image of the void spaces and dense objects within, much like a medical CT scan but on a monumental scale. This could reveal the layout of the central chamber, the shape of large artifacts, and even hint at the distribution of metallic objects, all through hundreds of feet of earth and stone. Coupled with ever more sensitive ground-penetrating radar and seismic sensors, we are moving toward a complete non-invasive blueprint. The dream is a fully immersive virtual reconstruction where researchers could one day walk through a perfect digital twin of the tomb, studying every painted detail on a jade suit or reading the text on bamboo slips through spectral imaging, all while the originals rest undisturbed in their silent, stable environment. This technological horizon offers a hopeful resolution to the standoff between curiosity and custodianship. It promises that the final secrets of the first emperor's eternal palace may not be lost to time, but revealed through patience and ingenuity, allowing the mountain to keep its promise while finally sharing its story. The emperor's quest ended not with transcendence but with a quiet, tragic irony. The shimmering substance he believed was the key to endless life, the very mercury he ingested in his alchemical elixirs, is now understood by modern science as a potent poison. His pursuit of immortality, fueled by the finest minds and deepest beliefs of his era, may have inadvertently shortened his time among the living. This is a profound historical pivot, where ancient faith in transformation collided with the unchanging nature of chemistry. The mercury meant to purify and empower his mortal body instead became a contributing factor in his passing, a quiet contradiction at the end of a life defined by monumental will. Yet the story of this substance did not end with him. In a final, breathtaking twist of fate, that same mercury was then woven into the fabric of his eternal sanctuary. The poison that may have failed him in life was repurposed to become the ultimate guardian of his legacy in death. It flows or rests at the heart of his tomb, a toxic moat protecting the very chamber where he sought to escape death's grasp. This creates a powerful duality, a single element serving two opposing masterpieces of human intention, one aimed at cheating death, the other at enforcing its finality. It binds together the themes of ambition, ancient science, and spiritual belief into one inseparable knot. The tomb, therefore, is more than an archaeological site. It is a physical metaphor. It represents the unintended consequences of absolute power and the timeless, deeply human struggle against our own impermanence. The emperor sought to command the universe, to bend the rules of existence to his will, and in doing so, he created a monument that perfectly encapsulates the limits of that command. The Mercury Rivers are not just a security system or a symbolic map. They are the solidified echo of a paradox, a lesson in humility encased within a mountain of ambition. They remind us that the tools we reach for to solve our greatest fears can sometimes become the very architects of those fears, a reflection on the delicate balance between human aspiration and the natural laws that ultimately define our journey. The guardians of this legacy speak with a patience measured in generations. For the archaeologists and heritage officials entrusted with the Qin Shi Huang tomb complex, the sealed mound is not a puzzle to be solved, but a trust to be upheld. Their perspective, often synthesized in interviews and academic papers, reveals a philosophy that transcends simple excavation. They see themselves as stewards for both a national legacy and a shared piece of human history, a dual responsibility that informs every cautious decision. This is why their decades-long approach of mapping, scanning, and waiting is not a sign of indecision, but a profound strategy. They are playing the ultimate long game, where the primary goal is the preservation of irreversible knowledge. Imagine holding a 2,000-year-old silk scroll that crumbles upon contact with air. For these custodians, that metaphor extends to the entire site. The potential loss from a rushed excavation is not just an artifact, but an entire chapter of context, meaning, and chemical equilibrium that can never be restored. Their work is therefore defined by a principle of minimum intervention. Each non-invasive scan with ground-penetrating radar, each soil sample analyzed for mercury, Each environmental study is a page carefully read without ever opening the book. This methodology prioritizes understanding the system in its entirety before ever considering a physical entry. It asks not just what is inside, but how it all functions together as a preserved microcosm. They often speak of technological readiness, waiting for the day when tools are advanced enough to enter without causing harm, a day that may still be decades or even centuries away. This patient stance is a powerful counter-narrative in a world often driven by immediacy. It reframes the tomb's secrecy not as a failure to discover, but as the highest form of respect. For these guardians, the greatest contribution they can make is to ensure that when the final door is one day opened, it is done with such care that nothing of true value is lost in the light. Their quiet vigilance is the reason the world's greatest archaeological secret remains, respectfully and purposefully, a secret. Each element of the necropolis was a deliberate stroke in a single, unified masterpiece. To see the Terracotta army, the Mercury Rivers, and the hidden traps as separate wonders is to miss the grand, chilling vision that connected them. They were not isolated features, but integrated components of a single statement, a declaration of power meant to resonate through eternity. This was not merely a burial complex, it was the ultimate expression of an emperor's belief that his authority was absolute, unending, and defended by every conceivable force. The sprawling layout itself was a map of his perpetual rule, with each sector fulfilling a specific role in the administration of his forever kingdom. The warriors in their pits were the eternal garrison, projecting his military might and ensuring order. The central mound, with its celestial ceiling and toxic rivers, was the seat of his cosmic and spiritual command, a realm where he controlled the very elements. And the traps were the final, unforgiving law of this domain, the physical manifestation of its inviolability. Every piece served the same overarching purpose, to create a perfect, functioning model of an empire that would never know a successor. It was a world built to operate without him, yet forever centered on his enduring presence. This holistic design reveals a mind that thought in totalities. Qin Shi Huang did not just want to be remembered, he wanted to remain in charge. The necropolis, therefore, becomes a comprehensive blueprint of his worldview, a frozen moment where political power, spiritual belief, and technological ingenuity fused into one immortal monument. The army shows his control over men, the Mercury his mastery over nature and the cosmos, and the traps his dominion over the very sanctity of his space. Together, they whisper the same uncompromising message, that here, the first emperor's will is still the only law that matters. The sealed mountain endures, a testament to an ambition that sought to conquer time itself. As we step back from the depths of this ancient mystery, we are left not with answers, but with a profound respect for the scale of its vision. The Mercury Rivers and silent traps are far more than historical footnotes. They are powerful, enduring symbols of the deepest currents in the human story. They speak to our shared fear of the unknown that awaits, our universal desire to leave a mark that outlasts our fleeting years, and our instinctive drive to protect what we hold most sacred, even from the relentless march of centuries. This tomb is a mirror, reflecting our own timeless fascinations back at us through the lens of bronze, clay, and liquid metal. The technological march forward continues, promising methods that may one day let us peer into that central chamber without a single grain of earth being disturbed. We may yet witness its wonders through the eyes of a microscopic robot or a cosmic ray scanner. But perhaps in our rush to know, we risk overlooking the tomb's most profound gift to us today, the enduring power of the unanswered question. There is a unique value in mystery, a sacred space for wonder that is preserved not in revelation, but in respectful distance. This sealed mound teaches us that some stories gain their power from remaining just out of reach, allowing each generation to project its own dreams, fears, and curiosity onto that silent landscape. It reminds us that history is not merely a catalogue of solved puzzles, but a living conversation between the past and the present, where what we choose to preserve can be as meaningful as what we choose to uncover. The greatest legacy of the first emperor may ultimately be this: a monument that compels us to look inward even as we gaze upon its hidden heart, pondering the lengths we go to for legacy and the wisdom in knowing when to let a secret keep its silent vigil. What are your thoughts on this timeless puzzle? Do you believe we should one day open the tomb, or does its mystery hold a value all its own? Share your perspective in the comments below and subscribe for more journeys into the echoes of history's greatest enigmas.